Great.
All right. Hey there. I'm here with Mark Morris of LegalClosings.ca. And I just wanted to hop on and discuss, because there's been some changes in the market, but I wanted to discuss the strategy for the seller and the ramifications for the buyer if the buyer cannot close for whatever reason. So, Mark, take it away.
Sure. Well, if you have a firm binding agreement and one of the parties, more particularly the buyer, feels that they want out of the deal, their options are fairly limited. These agreements are fairly ironclad, and they've been found by the court to be so. And as a result, the normal state of affairs is that the seller is entitled to the deposit as liquidated damages, regardless of what they resell for. So if they sell for $1 million the first time and they sell for $1.2 million the second, they're still entitled, if someone walks away, to the damages that are the deposit. But more than that, particularly in a falling market, the seller is entitled to the delta, to the difference between what they had originally sold for and what they eventually sell for. And so the damages can be quite severe, particularly in markets like Stouffville that are presently experiencing declines of 30% in certain property categories. So it's significant. So the question to what you're asking, what does a seller do? What does a buyer do? Well, a seller firstly starts by getting a very healthy deposit and then getting a good lawyer. The buyer similarly should be getting a good lawyer and should be negotiating early. And the reason the buyer should be negotiating early is because the buyer has certain leverage, because even though the seller is going to win if it goes to court, going to court is a very expensive process. As you may be aware, your buyers or your clients may not be aware, monies that are held by a brokerage trust account are governed by what's something called REBA, which is the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act. And specifically, RECO administers REBA on behalf of the province. RECO is the Real Estate Council of Ontario. RECO has said that the only way that money can actually leave a brokerage trust account is in one of three ways. One is completion of a transaction, two is a court order, or three is mutual agreement between the parties. And so let's bring it all together. What that means is that if someone walks away from a deal, the buyer walks away from a deal, it's true that a seller is entitled to the deposit, but they have to go to court to get it back absent mutual agreement between the parties. And thus it is that they may want to avoid a lengthy and expensive court process and instead agree that for the right to release the buyer from the agreement, they will be entitled to get immediately that deposit money. And many people make that choice. It's of course dependent upon how much of the deposit there is, how much they believe they can resell for in the open market. But the point is that the buyer actually has some negotiation leverage. Good buyers' lawyers will also invoke a whole bunch of strategies that many people who have only partaken in the market for the past 5-6 years may not be familiar with, but actually which were in the tool shed about 10 years ago. Something like a vendor take-back mortgage is something to start making its reappearance. What that means is, okay, if this appraised $200,000 less than I expected, as a result, I have to come up with $200,000 that I don't have. What do I do? Well, maybe the seller will take back a mortgage for that $200,000. So I'll get my first Scotiabank mortgage, assuming they give permission. I will get a seller take-back mortgage for the extra $200,000. And in that way, the seller is made whole over time, because they get the mortgage paid back over time. Of course, none of this can be done unless a buyer's lawyer is actively negotiating early and frequently with the seller, alerting them to the problem. Seller, of course, has their recourse and any number of options, doesn't need to agree. But if they choose to agree, they may very well be able to work through the issue. And that is, in a nutshell, what real estate lawyers have been doing all month and really since the decline of the market in February.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I hope that shed some light for all of you as to what to do in a situation like this, and it's happening all over the place. So yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for your strategies. And if you have any questions for Mark or you want to hire him as your counsel, he is at LegalCounsel.ca, and I'll add some information of his.
LegalClosing.ca. LegalClosing.ca.
Oh, sorry, LegalClosing.ca.
No problem, Julie. Thank you for the opportunity, and regards to everyone on the channel.
All right. Thank you.